Hey dudes, today I want to talk about compression on dialogue. So very quickly, what is that and why do we even want to do it? Well, think of it this way. If your dialogue kind of spikes and gets a little too loud, the compressor will automatically go, get down there, you're getting too loud. So it's our first form of mixing and it's all automatic. It's so great. So let's jump right into it and see how it works. Okay, so you can just see from the recording, I got some issues here, right? There's some pretty big spikes throughout here. Some pretty good evenness sort of in the general overall recording. And then, yeah, we don't want those. So instead of going in and trying to change all of those manually, let's just let the compression do the work. And all we're gonna do is come up here and add a plugin at the insert level. We're working with dynamics, that is volume going up and down. And here is the stock DYN3 compressor limiter with Pro Tools. Okay, so that'll pop up. The first thing that I do is kind of go to a moment where there is some, maybe some good recording and then a spike. So it doesn't have to be a long sample, it could even be something like that. And I'll give you some hints to start off with. The first thing that we're going to want to change is the ratio. So if you look right there, this is what's going to change. So 100:1 is no bueno for dialogue. That is way, way too strong. You see it's just a flat line there. But 1:1 doesn't do anything. So I would land somewhere around 8. So we'll try 8:1. Our threshold is when this gets engaged. So if I brought it all the way up here, it's not going to really work that hard. If I brought it all the way down here, for example, suddenly there's nothing. So again, if I go all the way to the top, no compression happening, and then suddenly, and I bring the threshold all the way down, it's squashing it so hard that we can't hear anything. So a number that I like to go to sort of as a starting number is -18. And then suddenly, it's a decent amount of compression without being too much. You'll see that also these are kind of my little magic numbers here between this -6 and -3. And then suddenly, it's going a little bit further than that, but that's also a pretty huge spike. So I'm using my ears and I'm kind of looking at this reduction volume to not go way, way down here like it did before. That's too much. If it's all the way up at the top at -1 or something, that's such light compression, it's just not doing much. Another thing that we can do is adjust the knee, and this will be the last thing that we adjust, and the rest I will leave up to you. So the knee basically controls the moment that the ratio and the threshold meet each other. By adding to the knee, you're making that moment a little bit more rounded or smooth. So we can do a 3 dB knee, play it again, and then suddenly, and it's a subtle difference, but to my ear, I like it, and it just makes me feel like the compressor is just going to be just slightly a little bit more rounded and softer. So let's do a side-by-side comparison. Basically, I'm going to bypass the compressor here, zero out the meter, and let's just listen to this section. And then suddenly I'm going to have some peaks in my voice. So -20 as an average. I think a couple of times it hit even around -18. So that was starting to get a little spicy. So let's reset the meter and now engage or unbypass the compressor and try one more time. And then suddenly I'm going to have some peaks in my voice. There you have it. What a magical tool. Okay, so hopefully you see just how valuable and exciting compression is. It is quite literally your first line of defense in regards to mixing. So if something gets a little loud, it automatically has your back and pushes down those loud, spiky moments, keeping more consistency and more polish across your whole project. Now, a couple of recommendations. I do think you should put a compressor on each of your tracks of dialogue And I do think you should take my values and suggestions as just that. They're suggestions. You should always use your ears, use your knee, use your ratio, and use your threshold at the very least. Now knowing what you know, and make sure it works for your project. Now you know how to use this, and you'll probably use it on every project. I know I certainly do. Hopefully you had a good time. I did. And until the next one, later, dudes.